Friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Local artist Rosie Simas, Seneca Nation of Indians, Huron Clan, embodies Onondaga philosophies of peacemaking and relationality in new immersive installation. Visit Age Jagwa Desnigowaweni. I hope it'll stir your mind and explore a space built for communal rest and contemplation. Simas presents a performance of the same name this May. Learn more about the exhibition and performance at walkerart.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Hello, this is Robert Pilot. For Native relatives, healing is more than just sobriety. It's reclaiming Indigenous masculinity as a sacred, balanced force. Join Hunter Thundercloud for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. We explore how personal recovery uplifts our communities. It's time men step back into roles as mentors and spiritual leaders. Recovery is collective, and it starts with us. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. Let's tend the fire together. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center, an art space that's more than a spoon and cherry. Galleries celebrate contemporary visual art, including Indigenous artists like Edgar Heap of Birds from the Cheyenne and Arapaho nations, and Jim Demeny from the Ojibwe Nation. Additionally, film screens, cinema, and performances are shown on stage. And the Walker is free every Thursday night and free every day for citizens and members of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 29, then Friday, sunshine with a high of 46. The Great Wall has been your home for Chinese favorites since 1981. Don't miss the sesame chicken, mushu pork with Chinese pancakes, or Peking duck. Stop in at the restaurant on France Avenue and 45th Street along the Minneapolis-Edina City line, or check them out at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, we're going to start right up here with our friend Tom Weber. We like to call him the first husband, but Tom's also been a longtime author and journalist, and it's really great to have you on and just talk about a few things. And, you inspired me last time to come on and become a convention person, delegate.
Yeah, a delegate.
I'm so glad that you're on, and let's talk a little bit what's happening.
Well, how was the delegate, the caucus? So you went to the caucuses. We're in the middle of that process now. What you're talking about is this. It's actually like a 2-3 month process, and the goal is to get Peggy Pat Flanagan, my wife, who is running for United States Senate, running to be the first Native woman ever in the United States Senate. And part of that process is this spring where we're trying to get her to become DFL endorsed. The DFL is in the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, does this process, which is actually pretty unique for Minnesota compared to other states where candidates can get the party endorsement. And that just shows that that person has a lot of grassroots support. And so what you're referring to, Robert, is that on February 3rd, you and a bunch of your neighbors went to these local caucuses, and I'm hoping maybe you signed up and you're now a delegate to your next convention, your Senate District Convention. And it's kind of an arduous process for folks involved, but the idea is to show people how much grassroots support you have. So I know you're interviewing me, but I'm kind of curious as to how that night went, because it sounds like the turnout was pretty good across the state.
Well, I was in Highland Park High School in St. Paul, and that's where our district is and where we met. It was a record amount of people. The lieutenant governor came and spoke in our group, and yes, I did become a delegate. So again, that was inspiring. It was great to see her. She gave us a big wave. Wendy and I were there, and just doing our service. And it's time not to sit in the shadows or in the background. It's time to step up for the things that are right.
People want to feel heard. People want to push back against what's been happening, and not just in Minnesota, although Minnesota is an important example because of what's been happening with ICE on the ground these past few months. And we know that ICE is not gone. And so people are just looking for ways to be involved. And, there is an election this year. And I think that you have a really stark choice in this race for U.S. Senate. Of course, our current U.S. Senator, Tina Smith, who has been a big friend, a big ally to Indian country. She serves on the Indian Affairs Committee. She decided not to seek re-election. And so what's happening now is that on the weekends, Peggy and I are splitting up and going to different conventions to give these 2-minute speeches, kind of the same thing like you talked about when you were at the school there in Highland Park. Mm-hmm. And the idea is you're trying to gather these delegates, and these folks are, it just feels so good. Like the world feels hard, but then you have these moments that feel good. And I just feel like there's a lot of groundswell support for what Peggy's doing. You still got to do the work. It's still a lot of work, but it's a way for people to say, this is what I can do. And instead of just saying, well, we got to fight back to zero, let's have a vision of what we want for our country. And I think that people see that in the campaign Peggy is running.
Well, what I like to, and I've known Peggy for quite a few years now, not as long as you, of course, but what she has to say is resonating big time with me, because I guess I've always considered myself liberal, but this is more than liberal. This is things that if Trump can get away with all these things like what he's doing, there's no reason why, and Peggy's a fighter, why we can't have universal health care and other things.
That is 100%. The universal health care, or you sometimes referred to as Medicare for all, because that's the big proposal in Congress right now. I think it's been such an interesting story with that, because a lot of where Peggy's fervent support for Medicare for all has come from the campaign trail. She's done more than 150 events across the state, and meeting with farmers in Western Minnesota who, you wouldn't automatically think that maybe that's a proposal that they would be super interested in, but then you hear the stories about how they're spending $10,000-$20,000 a year on their health insurance through the marketplace. In fact, Peggy was just telling me she was literally on the phone today with someone who's going to be a delegate, and he's supporting her solely because of Medicare for all, because he is in that same situation. He's not a farmer, but he works by himself, and so he doesn't have health insurance through his workplace. And when he goes on every year to buy for his family, it's $28,000. Now, imagine what you could do with that $28,000. Now, some of that, the way Medicare for all works, some of that will go towards actually utilizing and creating Medicare for all, but not $28,000. Like, you're going to have money back in your pocket. This is going to save people money as well. So why not? I mean, just go for it. Trump is trying to dismantle everything, and it's awful. But there's also moments where you can say, well, when we want to build back things, how do we want to build them back? And an example like Medicare for all is, let's just go for it.
Absolutely. And, we've talked a lot about this over the years here on Native Roots Radio. What a game changer. This would build the economy, because people wouldn't be married to their jobs that they didn't like because they have health care. And I think things would just get so much better and productive.
I agree. And, we, It's exactly right. And in fact, I had a moment in my career. I worked for radio. I worked for Minnesota Public Radio, and then I left. And for about a year and a half, I didn't have like a regular full-time job, a W-2 job, right, where I would have that health insurance. And it was actually a moment. There were a few months there where before Peggy and I got married, so I was on my own. And there's this thing called Cobra. So I was able to buy back into the health insurance I'd had, but that was about to run out. And we didn't get married just so that I could have the health insurance. But like, you just think about that. You just think about how that would have gone. And it's just like that. I have family members who are dealing with it. And so, you know, when I'm out on the road for Peggy, or when Peggy's out on the road, when we're talking about this campaign, and a lot of times it can be a 2-minute speech, but sometimes you have a little bit longer to talk. The biggest applause lines when we give similar talking points when we go to different places because we want people to hear the same message. The things that get the biggest applause are supporting Medicare for all. And the other one is that Peggy is the only candidate in this race for US Senate not taking corporate PAC money, because corporations have plenty of power in Washington, and Peggy wants to be beholden to the actual people of Minnesota. So those are the parts of the speeches that always get the biggest reaction in it, and I understand why.
Yeah, I do too, and I'd really like to. We got you for a couple of segments, so I'd love to have you talk more about that. But we got like a minute and a half left, and one of the things you were on my show years ago, and you authored this book and about Minneapolis, and it really hammered in kind of like the inequities that were even way back when Minneapolis started.
I've learned so much since then, and so much has happened in Minneapolis. It feels like my book is wildly outdated, even after being a few years old. But yeah, the idea is that, excuse me, like, this is a city that has a really important history as to how it became a city, but also to remember that there were people here before Minneapolis was Minneapolis, of course. And so, it was a interesting and a really interesting book to investigate. But that's one of those books that you could always just keep writing to, just keep going and keep learning about the next thing. So.
Right on. Hey, we are here with Tom Weber, first husband of our great friend, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and we got more to talk about in the next segment. This is Native Roots Radio. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Did you know that the Walker has a cinema that shows film almost every week? From artist talks, genre-defined performances, and world premieres to archival shorts and experimental soundscapes, the Walker Cinema explores all modes of global and local filmmaking. Get your first tickets for free. Visit walkerart.org/cinema to learn more. That's walkerart.org/cinema. See you at the movies.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
This is Chase Iron Eyes announcing a new show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, powered by Native Roots Radio. The show is called Native American Patriot Talk Radio. What will we do on the show? We are going to explore and dive into the source of American constitutional sovereignty, the intersection of Native American and legal issues. Find us the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. on AM 950.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and I want to be your next United States Senator, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are with our friend Tom Weber, and Tom, it always fires me up to hear that bumper with Peggy, and it was really fun recording it. I don't know if you know the story, but I ran into her at the fair, and she knew exactly what to do in one take, and
That's awesome. I love that.
It was a lot of fun, and it's always fun to see you and her out in the community. And I want to say this too. This is brought up many times, not just by me, but all my guests talk about you and the Lieutenant Governor being in community all the time. We see you.
Well, I mean, thank you, but like, I think if Peggy were here, her response would be like, well, what's the alternative, right? I mean, so much has been happening that's heavy in Minneapolis these last few months. And as we know, because we talked about this last time I was on the show, Native people, which is its own irony, were and are being targeted by ICE, frankly, because of the color of their skin. They are presumed to not, be from here or be a citizen, and yet they are the ultimate citizens, as we know. But it's been awful. And why wouldn't you show up in community? And as you know, recently at Powderhorn Park, there was a memorial for Renee Good, who was killed by ICE agents, the first of two Minnesotans who were killed on the streets of Minnesota. And that was a big prayer service, Lakota led, and really just a beautiful moment to be there. And so, if you want to think about Peggy as a politician and she gets points for showing up in the community, you can do that. But I guarantee you that for her, it's what keeps her going. It's what fills her cup. And so it's just so important to have that and to have those connections. And, for example, your next guest, Robert Lilligren, his offices are at Powwow Grounds Coffee Shop, where a lot of this resistance movement in the urban Indian community has been centered from. And we went down there, we've gone down there a few times, and it's just so important to be there and to just, even if it's just to hug people. And so, again, I don't know what the alternative is, Robert, but we love it.
Hey, we got our friend Robert Lilligren on a little early, and because Robert did Brown Institute, so I'm always intimidated by that. And Tom was on NPR for many years, so I asked for reinforcements. Robert, thanks for coming in and talking with Tom. And
Robert, who's Tom? So nice to be on the show with you.
Absolutely. It's good to see you. Maybe the last time we were on the radio together was when I was a radio host, and I think I was talking to you about the city council or something in the urban Indian community.
I think you're right. I think
takes us back.
Yeah, and Robert, I was talking to Tom just before you came on about how we see the Lieutenant Governor and Tom in community and how important that is for us as natives, but also as a community in whole, that they're there, and we don't see a lot of other people.
No, it's always so great to see the Lieutenant Governor, to see you, Tom, out in community. I think, did we see each other at the MMIR March? Is that
I wasn't at that one, but that's a yearly thing, and and it becomes bigger every year. It's so heartening to see that event becomes a larger event every year.
Yeah, and this year there was just a stronger presence of allies. I think people who kind of became aware of what goes on in the local urban Indian community because of our response, our kind of high-profile response to the surge.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. Well, we were talking earlier too, Robert, how important it is for us now as natives, but also people, all the allies that listen to the show all over Turtle Island, to get involved. And I signed up to be a delegate this time, and that was because Tom was on the show, and we saw the Lieutenant Governor.
Great.
Well, and Robert, I'm glad to hear you're a delegate. And Robert knows from his own time in politics that those city conventions are very different than conventions maybe in the suburbs or in greater Minnesota. They carry a lot of, frankly, I won't say emotion, but it's like people are really fervently there. They really believe in something. And so I just love that there's this process that lets people voice voice those feelings and to feel like they are being heard, or maybe they're not feeling like they're being heard, and maybe that's part of the problem. That's why you pick new people, right?
And so they engage. There's a lot of first-time delegates in my district, a lot, and there's just a different flavor wherever you go in the state about whatever the local organizing unit is. But in the city, it's robust.
Yeah,
people are.
And it's felt good too, Robert. I mean, I think one of the things since we last talked, since I was last here, is that Tina Smith, the senator who is stepping down from the seat, came out and endorsed Peggy. She said, this is who should replace me in the United States Senate. That was big. We had a huge poll come out showing that we're leading by 13 points our primary opponent, Representative Craig, by 13 points, including by 24 points in greater Minnesota.
Wonderful.
So Democrats all over the state are fired up, and I think they're fired up for Peggy. And there's also, some of you may be involved with your local Indivisible group. These are very grassroots organizations that have popped up, and all of the Indivisible groups across the state, there's a bunch of different chapters. They all individually voted on who they want to support for U.S. Senate, and every single one of them, every one of those local organizations unanimously voted to endorse Peggy. So Peggy has been endorsed by the Minnesota Indivisible and also now by the National Indivisible group. And this is a group that's bringing new people into politics. And it's just a great, wonderful thing to see happen, because I think people are responding to Peggy's message.
Hey, one thing I want to say too is, can you get out the information, because it's so fun, how people can support the lieutenant governor, and how you mentioned earlier that she's not taking any PAC money or any of that. I'd like you to say that again, and then
the
average amount's like $26. Every time I see Peggy, we put in $26.
Well, that's a good way of doing it. If every time you see Peggy on TV and you want to throw in some money, great. But that is the point. Only we're not taking any corporate PAC money. No corporations are funding this campaign, and can't say that about our opponent in the primary. In fact, Big Oil, Chevron, funded a bunch of ads for her in January. So to make this and to keep this a people-powered campaign, people can head to peggyflanagan.com, and at the top of that page, you'll see a button that says donate. And it's, it's hard to ask for money, but hey, I was in public radio for a long time, so I can ask for money all day long. I can outlast all of you. But it's important to have that funding, because right now what it's paying for is people. We're talking about these conventions that we're going to. We have to have people there to get people in the right place, and to raise their hands at the right time and all of that stuff. And we're paying for staff. But when you also go to peggyflanagan.com, there's another button that says volunteer. And we have more than 5,000 volunteers across the state, but also this country, 5,000 who are currently making calls, for example, to delegates to see if they will be supporting Peggy when it comes to the state convention and other things. So there are a lot of ways to support Peggy. And of course, for all of my friends in Indian country, she feels your prayers, she feels your smudging. And whenever folks, from the community say, we pray for you every morning, or, we're smudging for you regularly, it's really important. It really means something. And she really feels that. And so just keep those prayers coming as well.
Love it.
Yeah, Robert, you've known Peggy probably longer than both of us. And it's
true.
exciting to be in this part of her career, right?
It's just great. I remember helping on her first campaign back in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, Minneapolis School Board, and I was just so impressed. I think at the time she may have been the youngest person ever elected to the school board, certainly the first Native rep. So it was great to support her. But I remember at the time thinking, wow, she could be governor of this state someday. And then I thought, heck, she could be president. Don't limit her at governor. So it's just been a joy to watch her trajectory.
There's a funny story from that 04 race, and I wasn't there, but she talks about, we were talking about conventions. And so you go to the city convention, and she got endorsed at the city convention, but they showed up early and put Peggy Flanagan flyers on every seat. And you're not really supposed to do that anymore. But I think at one point, then what they were at Washburn High, I don't remember where it was, but at one point you go into the gym and they had printed up this massive banner that said Peggy Flanagan that like blotted out the sun, to the point where my understanding is that the city DFL actually had to change the rules because she showed up with so much stuff that they're like, whoa, 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 you can't put all of that up in that way because it's too big or whatever. I don't know exactly what happened, but it just showed that she's always been an organizer. She's always been in community and getting people to do it. And one of the things that Peggy talks about in her race is that, when Peggy, go to Washington to be your senator, I'm taking all of you with me. This is not about me. This is about what we can do as a people-powered campaign. And then when she's in office, we got to get her across the finish line. There's a primary election in August and the general in November. But it's how I govern is going to be the same way as how I campaign. And it's basically by showing up. That's what you do.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Tom, for coming on and, joining the Robert Show here on Native Roots Radio.
We're ganging up on you.
I love it. Thank you for your time, for ever inviting me.
Yeah, and we'll swing back again when things get closer. And I just get fired up, Robert Lilligren, about the possibilities, and it's so great to see Tom.
You're here.
Thank you all.
Hey, right on. That was Tom Weber, first husband of our Lieutenant Governor, and up next, Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute. We'll be right back. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center, an art space that's more than the spoon and cherry. Galleries celebrate contemporary visual art, including indigenous artists like Edgar Heap of Birds from the Cheyenne and Arapaho nations, and Jim Demeny from the Ojibwe Nation. Additionally, film screens, cinema, and performances are shown on stage. And the Walker is free every Thursday night and free every day for citizens and members of tribal nations. Learn more at walkerart.org.
This is Chase Iron Eyes announcing a new show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, powered by Native Roots Radio. The show is called Native American Patriot Talk Radio. What will we do on the show? We are going to explore and dive into the source of American constitutional sovereignty, the intersection of Native American and legal issues. Find us the first and third Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. on AM 950.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Did you know that the Walker has a cinema that shows film almost every week? From artist talks, genre-defined performances, and world premieres to archival shorts and experimental soundscapes, the Walker Cinema explores all modes of global and local filmmaking. Get your first tickets for free. Visit walkerart.org/cinema to learn more. That's walkerart.org/cinema. See you at the movies.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Local artist Rosie Simas, Seneca Nation of Indians, Huron Clan, embodies Onondaga philosophies of peacemaking and relationality in new immersive installation. Visit Agejagwa Desnigowaweni. I hope it'll stir your mind and explore a space built for communal rest and contemplation. Simas presents a performance of the same name this May. Learn more about the exhibition and performance at walkerart.org.
Hey, Francois, have you made any New Year's resolutions?
No.
Well, mine is to learn some French. Can you help me?
Bien sûr.
How do you say this? Can I buy you?
Est-ce que je peux t'acheter
Macaroons from Nicolette's.
des macarons de Nicolette's?
Now, say it all at once.
Est-ce que je peux t'acheter des macarons de Nicolette's?
Oh, absolutely. I have a box of raspberry rose, blueberry cheesecake, and chocolate.
Mais c'est quoi ça?
Thank you, Francois. You can order them online at nicoletsmacaroons.com or visit their store in Plymouth. Merci.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 29, then Friday, sunshine with a high of 46. The Great Wall has been your home for Chinese favorites since 1981. Don't miss the sesame chicken, mushu pork with Chinese pancakes, or Peking duck. Stop in at the restaurant on France Avenue and 45th Street along the Minneapolis-Edina City line, or check them out at greatwallrestaurant.us.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Bobby Wilson. Witcha.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are here with our friend, CEO and president of Native American Community Development Institute here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Robert Lilligren. And Robert, that was fun. Thanks for coming in. You know, I'm intimidated by you professionals, so I got that.
Thanks for inviting me, and I hope I didn't encroach too much on Tom Weber's time.
No, it was great. And, you know, he's busy, so his time was limited, so it was great.
Yeah, it was so good to see him, and Peggy's campaign for Senate, U.S. Senate, looks so good from out here, and so it's good to hear from the inside that it's doing well.
Yeah, definitely. So, geez, how long has it been since we've seen each other? My goodness, a lot going on, and a lot going on, and then of course we want to talk about what's happening at Native American Community Development Institute, but my goodness, I did not watch, and I know it's maybe un-American, some people think, but I did not watch the Trump show, but we had people on that did since then. How are you feeling, and did you watch it?
I did not watch it, and I just can't watch that man talk and without kind of going crazy. So, but I followed a lot of the commentary about it, the responses to it. I feel like I got the gist. I think the top line thing is it's the longest State of the Union address ever, in almost 2 hours of listening to that. Those fabrications, those lies, the kind of rambling, it's more than I can take. The name calling, so I didn't watch it either.
Yeah, and it was basically what he says every day, attacking people, being mean to people, and then jumping on people's fame, whether it's the hockey team or whomever, and it's really sad and pathetic, and it's really been really heartwarming, but we got to keep the pedal to the metal that people are finally getting this, and I can't believe there's 38% of the people that are still liking this guy.
Right, but fewer and fewer, and this was predictable, right? That is, his base would slowly drift away. That he's not the type of personality that can hold a base together, a diverse base. So it'll keep whittling down until it's the true believers, right? And I just think that was an inevitable trajectory here, and so it's playing out, but it still is very painful.
Yeah, definitely. And so let's talk a little bit what's happening in the Avenue with this so-called drawdown. How do you see that? And I know I'm still seeing people seeing ICE agents out there, and people are getting still arrested, and I'm still seeing them. How are things on the Avenue, and how are things with Native American Community Development Institute?
Yeah, thanks for asking. And things are going okay. It's way quieter right in our geography than it's been. Nobody really knows, I don't think, how many federal agents are still here, but it's probably in the 800 to 900 range. The peak of the surge was 3,000, and a normal cadre of federal ICE and Border Patrol agents in Minnesota is about 100, give or take. So we still have a very bloated forest here. It feels a little decentralized. So like the area that the Native community is identified with here is also identified with lots of new arrivals, immigrants, asylees. And so it was kind of the buy in bulk area. And I think that's why their original efforts focused so much right in our neighborhoods. And now it seems like it's moved out to the suburbs or even the rural centers, the agricultural centers that rely on a lot of immigrant workforce. So it doesn't feel as dire and urgent. As you know, our building, our All My Relations Arts Gallery with Power Grounds Coffee Shop became the headquarters for organizing observers and patrol and response, rapid response. And so we've actually shut that down, or we will be shutting it down. Notice will go out tomorrow, but it's cleared out, and it served the community very, very well, as it has in past times of crisis. And now it's time to kind of return it to being an art gallery. That's an important function in our culture and in our world as well. So it's for us, it feels much more, there's a sense of relief, but we have a lot of equipment. We're ready to reactivate as quickly as we can, maybe in the gallery, maybe somewhere else, but organizations like Indigenous Protector Movement, Many Shields, Warrior Women, Make Voting a Tradition that was staffing a lot of this. We're all ready to go again because we don't think we've seen the end of this kind of activity. And I suspect that as we get closer to the elections in November, we'll see a resurge of federal presence here.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things too that's interesting is that he never talked about ICE, never talked about Epstein and those things. And so they're conniving in the background here. What's happening? One of the things I want to mention and switch gears, because I'm switching gears all the time on you, Robert. Sorry. Well, I saw something really cool come out of the Four Sisters garden plots. And is that new? I'm really excited to hear more about that. And we can get a guest on.
Yeah, so NACDI organizes our work in the community in some general themes, arts and culture, for example, civic engagement and voting. And one of them is food sovereignty. So we have our Four Sisters Farmers Market in the season. And then we also have our Four Sisters Urban Farm. And so it's not brand new. It's an initiative we've had for probably 5-6 years now, but it's been growing every year. And the farm is located in some publicly owned right of way along what's called the Midtown Greenway here in Minneapolis. It's a mostly a depressed railroad corridor, former railroad corridor that was reimagined into a bike and pedestrian and an amenity for a part of the city that didn't really have a lot of amenities. And so our farm is on county-owned, Hennepin County-owned right-of-way, and it started as one little segment, and it's expanded to 4 or 5 now. We have a medicine garden, food gardens, and one of the things we're able to offer are garden plots, raised beds for community members. And so it's the sign up for those is going on right now, and it's a great response from community. And we knew for this farm to be successful, it would have to have a high level of support in the local community. It's in an area that has been plagued by high crime, violent crime for decades. And for 36 years, I lived just a few blocks from the spot, and nobody could calm it down. Nobody could control it. So the county came to us and asked if we would be willing or interested in farming there. And knowing so much of the history of that site, I was like, oh, I don't know, let's see, and it's just been a tremendous partnership. They've supported us every start of the way. We started in ceremony and prayer, and I just really feel like that changed the trajectory. It was a reclaiming of sort of the spirit of that land. We have an orchard, a medicine garden, food gardens, and we make gardening plots, raised beds available to the community.
That's cool. And I think that's awesome, really. And I'm getting excited too. The sun's staying out a little later now, and pretty soon I'll be hanging out at the Four Sisters Market.
Love it. Love it. Well, then with the Four Sisters Farm, we're tapping maples this next week. It's maple
What?
season. Yeah, this is the
Oh,
third year now. It started very, very small, and it gets bigger
right.
every year. But we have maples around the farm, but also just around the community. We solicited people who may have maples in their yards and want them tapped, and so and we're gonna do a cooking event at East Phillips Park coming up, and so yeah, we have a urban maple sugaring sugar bush going on.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
It
And
is awesome.
that is seriously awesome. And hopefully I'll have more time to be involved with that, because that's kind of things that I really enjoy. And that's really when you're doing that work, you are community in community.
Totally. And then bringing indigenous ways. If there's a trip out to Punky Sugar Bush for the
Oh, wow.
participants, and so people are learning, right, the tradition and the how to do this in a good way. And of course, we'll have ceremony and prayer as well. But it's a big operation, and I give our farm manager Gloria a ton of credit. This was her brainchild. She's been putting it together methodically over years, getting people to volunteer their trees to be tapped, and so we'll see. And then we bottle it, and we for ours in these little maple leaf bottles for NACDI, and then that's part of a gift. So we give those as gifts.
Well, after you cook it down.
Yeah, after it's cooked down.
That's crazy. And Punky's has been around since the Red Schoolhouse in the 70s. That's very cool to hear that that's still going on.
Yeah. And so NACDI has a staff went out there. It was a minute ago, maybe 5 years ago, and went out and did a day out there helping and stuff and learning, and it was just so very cool. And yeah, it's cool that it's still going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have helped over the years out there, and God bless them. That's just amazing. We got a couple minutes here, and I guess just want to talk a little bit about, are you an Olympic person?
A little bit. I didn't see as much of them as maybe I'd like. I like the kind of more artistic ones, figure skating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched that. How about you?
Yeah, Wendy and I did watch, and as a matter of fact, I'm really embarrassed to say this, but we watched like 3 hours of curling, and we didn't. All of a sudden, we didn't know what the heck's going on here. Now I know too much about curling. I thought curling was like a drinking game, like bowling.
No, I love the curling. Yeah, there's been a lot of conversation about curling this Olympics, and it's one of those things I don't really. I mean, I kind of get the game because you watch it, but yeah, you put it on and it's like mesmerizing. Right? Just watching him track that stone.
It's like a slow motion fire you're watching. It's like, oh my God, it's been 3 hours. We can't do this ever again.
Very, very slow motion. But yeah.
There is strategy though, and they do whip that thing. Yeah. They curl the curler, the rock. That's for sure. I saw that and I was like, wow. They did exactly what they wanted to do. And I don't remember, I curled years ago. It was like I worked at a bar in the 70s, and we all went to St. Paul Curling Club to
I know where that is.
curl and drink and curl, and that's all I know about it. Hey, we are here with Robert Lilligren and Native American Community Development Institute, NACDI, and we're going to take a quick break and talk some more with him and really get in the nuts and bolts of what's happening with Native American Community Development. We'll be right back. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center. Local artist Rosie Simas, Seneca Nation of Indians, Huron Clan, embodies Onondaga philosophies of peacemaking and relationality in new immersive installation. Visit Age Jagwa Desnigowaweni. I hope it'll stir your mind and explore a space built for communal rest and contemplation. Simas presents a performance of the same name this May. Learn more about the exhibition and performance at walkerart.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Aho, this is Robert Pilot. For Native relatives, healing is more than just sobriety. It's reclaiming Indigenous masculinity as a sacred, balanced force. Join Hunter Thundercloud for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. We explore how personal recovery uplifts our communities. It's time men step back into roles as mentors and spiritual leaders. Recovery is collective, and it starts with us. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for Native Roots Radio presents Controlled Fire. Let's tend the fire together.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hi, it's Dr. Evan Adams, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. Hey, Victor, you better be listening.
In this portion of the show, we'd like to bring awareness to our wolf and bear populations throughout Turtle Island. Say no to the hunts.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio. We were with our friend Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. We brought that back every day now. We're going to be howling every day.
I didn't know you were going to howl. I would have howled with you. I will next time.
Right on, right on. Well, let's talk. We got a few minutes here. Let's talk about what's happening. And I know personally, because I try to get on the avenue and stop by and go to the Indian Center and, just see Dr. Stately and all the other people on the avenue of the great work that Native American Community Development does. So let's talk a little bit what's going on.
It's an interesting time. We got really had to pivot to the community response during the federal surge here.
Mm-hmm.
So that has taken a lion's share of our time and attention. I mean, we're still working toward our more mission-focused work, but one of the things we can do at NACDI is pivot pretty quickly. And, we have an emphasis on communication, which you need. Then we have a little bit of space we can turn over to the community. Through our Metropolitan Urban Indian Directors, our Urban Leadership Forum here, we were able to coordinate a lot of response amongst the Native orgs here, especially around food access and other resources for people who are afraid to leave their homes. But now it's kind of quieting down, right? And so we are at NACDI in our building where everything was cleaned out today, I guess. I haven't seen it. I'll see it tomorrow morning. But the gallery has been emptied out, and we slowly ramped down the operations there. Powwow Grounds is returning to normal, and so we can refocus. We had to cancel a show in our gallery just because it was being used for something else, which is fine. And so we'll restore the gallery. And then in the interim, we are really looking, as we put it back together, to use that as space of community gathering and healing. I know, and I don't want to announce any names or activities, but have local artists come and do community arts workshops there. And just there's something really special about that space of All My Relations Arts and Powwow Grounds. And so we want to make sure that we're honoring that, right? It's really a hub during community crisis, many of them, not just this latest one. So during crises. And so, we want to honor that. And then the other big focus, Robert, for us is the November elections. And NACDI has a nonpartisan civic engagement, voter engagement project called Make Voting a Tradition, or MVAT is the acronym. And it's nationally, actually internationally recognized work. And so, it's kind of a local hub in Native political organizing nonpartisan organizing around elections. And so we have a lot of national partners in our network, and so meeting with them, and we knew this was going to be an important election, and now there are these other kinds of plans we have to make that we've never had to make in the 10 years or whatever of Make Voting a Tradition, which are around voter safety, security, polling place security, so that's a whole different level, along with all of the other outreach, organizing, education, awareness efforts that we do. Now it's, we have to take care of people who are trying to exercise their right to vote.
That's amazing, and that's proactive as heck. I just want to give a quick shout out for the new shirts too. I didn't get one, but they're beautiful.
Oh yeah, the tie-dye?
Yes, and the new hats.
The new hats, the shirts. Make Voting a Tradition is famous for having a new color shirt, logo shirt every election. And this year it's this beautiful tie-dye that evokes water. That's, I think, the big push of that, and through some of the research that we've done on what motivates voters, Native voters, to the polls, caring for Mother Earth and caring for water is preeminent issue. So that's why we kind of wanted to capture that water image.
You did, and I got FOMO when I saw him. I went, "Oh, I got to get one."
You'll get yours, I'm sure. You're a master at getting T-shirts.
Well, and posters too. Don't forget the posters. I got quite a few really cool ones from you guys.
Right. So that was some of our work will be, and has been, around the intersection of art and activism and voter motivation. And we've been a part for the last 2 election cycles of really cool research projects with national participation, trying to determine what motivates Native people and to vote. And then we use our network of artists to engage imagery and different ways of delivering messages, and then we can gauge which are the most successful. And so that's an exciting part of our work as well.
Yeah, definitely. And just the support that you give the community too, and that's so important to uplift what you guys do. And I think, years ago, you were one of the first organizations that really said, "Hey, let's all work together. This is not us against you and you against me." And I think that would really become a great model and really successful.
Thanks for saying that, Robert. You're very kind, and I think you give us too much credit, but it is an asset-based approach. And, I think there's just a growing awareness, and we're kind of part of that, but about how the colonized system encourages us to view each other as competitors for resources, for people to be involved. And so to not do that, to embrace ways of being together that respect the individuals, respect people's roles and contributions, and it's a much more collaborative environment and ecosystem. And so that's decolonization, right? That's taking off the yoke of colonization, re-indigenizing the way that we work. And it's just, we're not the only ones by far. There's a lot of organizations, individuals, businesses, educational institutions that are doing similar things. And it's rewarding at this time in my life to be part of that.
One of the things I want to mention too, because I never really give a call to action to Native American Community Development Institute, but I like that. But I also want to mention too that I've noticed on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm sure it's out in other places, you kind of have a bio of the people that are working at Native American Community Development Institute, and I think that's just so great.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for noticing. And the latest one that came out was a little Q&A with Jolene Jones, and we've been doing these profiles, and it's part of a larger approach to telling not just our stories at NACDI, but the community stories. And we've beefed up our communications. Cadre, we have 2, which is a lot for a small nonprofit. But to tell our story, the community story, and we thought, well, we should tell the stories of the people who work here as well. So that's been a priority. And so, one came out today about Jolene and her work during the surge response.
Wow, that's crazy. It just came out today and I saw that. Wow. So we got less than a minute left. Again, if people want to know more and find out more about Native American Community Development Institute, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I would just head to either our website, which is NACDI.org, NACDI.org, or on Facebook. We have a really good Facebook page, or Instagram. We have great social media presence. So yeah, NACDI, NACDI.
Well, again, Robert, thanks again for helping me with Tom. You were a Brown Institute graduate, and I needed some help because he was an NPR guy for like 10 years. So again, thanks so much.
You did great.
All right. Hey, that was Robert Lilligren, Native American Community Development Institute, and this is Native Roots Radio. If you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance. From Chief Plenty Coops, the ground on which we stand on, sacred ground, it's the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office, and vote, vote, vote. We're still here. We are the seventh generation. Support comes from the Walker Arts Center,